podcast where we explore how place shapes identity, community, and the way we see ourselves. I'm your host, Corey Sotomayor, and I'm grateful you've joined me for Season 2. I'm grateful too for the generous support from TELUS Story Hive, supporting so many podcasts across Alberta and British Columbia. Lived experience doesn't just shape how people view their community, it also influences how they view themselves. The sum of these experiences and memories forms a narrative about place. At the heart of this season, we continue to explore how these stories intersect, how community motivates its people, and how people in turn motivate their community. This year, our conversations will stretch further. We'll still share stories rooted in Medicine Hat, but with a bit of a twist. Many of this season's episodes will be presented through the eyes of some of our more creative community members. Each will bring a unique perspective on the connection between place and identity. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that Motivation Local is created on the traditional lands of the Blackfoot and Cree peoples, within the homelands of the Métis Nation, and at the meeting place of Treaty 4 and Treaty 7. These lands have been gathering places for generations, and we honor and learn from the deep relationships Indigenous people continue to have with this land. I look forward to sharing this new season of conversations with you on Motivation Local. Today on Motivation Local, we're sitting down with someone who has shaped Medicine Hat in ways most people will never fully see, but almost everyone has felt. Deborah Forbes is a writer, an artist, an educator, and a long-serving school trustee, a person whose life work has been woven through classrooms, boardrooms, and creative spaces across our community. For decades, she has helped students find clarity, helped colleagues navigate the complexities of public education, and all the while treasuring her role as an outsider that supports other outsiders. What stands out about Deborah is the quiet consistency of her influence. She's one of those people who has lifted the intellectual and creative life of this city simply by showing up with curiosity, compassion, and high expectations for her students, for her community, and for herself. Whether through her years at the Medicine Hat College or her service on the school board, Deborah has always been engaged in the same project, helping people think more deeply about who they are in the world where they live. And she's done all of it here, choosing to root her creative and professional life in Medicine Hat, proving that small cities can be fertile ground for big ideas, thoughtful writing, and meaningful service. Today, we talk about identity, the life of an artist, and what it means to contribute to a community over a lifetime. This is a conversation with someone who understands the weight of words and the value of place. I trust you'll enjoy this episode. Welcome to the show, and thanks for doing this with me.
Well, thanks. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, I think this will be lots of fun. I wanted to start kind of just, you've woven a whole bunch of pieces between education, art, community service. All of those pieces have been clearly a thread in your life. And if you were to be introducing yourself to someone new, where does that thread start?
Oh, where does it start? Okay. That's a hard thing to pin down because how my life has gone. I finally found something that kind of describes how my life operates, and it exists within chaos theory. And the more I read about chaos theory, I keep thinking, this is my life. And if you let chaos simmer for long enough in the universe, order emerges. And so I look at chaos theory and I think, that's it, that's my life. And so it's just kind of one thing collides with another thing that bounces off another thing, and then they're all in a great big jumble, and then something always starts to emerge out of it. So it's not that I have some kind of great plan or anything. It's just colliding with things in the universe.
Was there a moment for you where you went, oh, that's what it is? Chaos.
The moment is probably within the last few years.
Yeah.
But there's a whole life preceding that kept saying you're operating within chaos theory, and I was not paying any attention. I was just, being distracted by this, moving into that, and until I started to have a really strong realization that all of these things are connected in ways that I don't understand, but I understand that they're all connected.
And then, so on the, I'm trying to, I can't imagine chaos theory as something that could be actually in a box or with sides or whatever, right?
You just can't stuff it.
No, because it's more like an amoeba or something. I don't know.
It is. It's more like space that is, it's constantly expanding, and
Right.
and there's chaos there, and you can't contain it. And so to understand it. Okay, little note. In high school, which I did not do very well at because I really didn't go very often, I didn't know that physics was about anything. I just didn't know. And now all I want to do is read popular physics and understand how things operate in the universe and all the unknowns that are out there and the knowns that turn into unknowns. I'm fascinated with it now, but I didn't know it was about anything. And so when I think back on that now, that was one of the first little signals that I got that we could do way better at helping to educate people. To let them know that what you're learning is actually about something.
Right.
And I think sometimes we forget that.
Yeah.
Some teachers do better than others, but some are just dealing with those equations and working through them. So that's been a revelation to me, and it's been a fascinating kind of guidepost to move toward.
Physics or chaos was always there influencing along the way, but were there things that you felt like were influencing you through stages?
Art and humans.
Yeah.
Like from the time I was very young, I've been fascinated with art, mostly visual art, but all the arts kind of really interest me. Dance and music and theater, but visual art particularly. And so from a very young age, I look at visual art. And then I taught art history for many years, and I've taught critical theory, which gives me another opportunity to re-enter things. Oh, that's another thing, re-entering pieces of work, let's say from the Renaissance or something, that you think you already know.
Yeah.
And then you think, oh my gosh, it's still unfolding. It's chaos theory itself. It's still unfolding, and new order is starting to emerge from it. So looking at art, and then watching people, particularly watching people learn, which we're doing all the time. People are learning all the time, whether we recognize it or not. And so watching people learn has been a big thing. What else? Art, watching people learn, and sort of watching particularly kind of outliers in a community or outliers in the world that are a poor fit for the increasingly bureaucratized structures that we seem to operate in now. We can't do anything without checking whether insurance is going to cover it.
Right.
And so, and so I look at, okay, who's being left out of this picture? And then as soon as you think one group has finally made its way into the picture, then another group will start to marginalize it again. And so I think we're at a really critical time in human history in deciding, there's a lot of deciding who to not let on the bus right now. And I thought we were beyond that. But
So chaos theory is really, there are no boundaries, right? But there's people's desire to make boundaries.
Well, there are people's desires to understand it. And the understanding of it, I think, comes from being patient and letting it operate. And then order does sift out of it. Now, the order might be temporary.
Yeah.
It might be only about one or two things, but the order does sift out of it and become visible to the searcher, let's say. And then it'll all change again.
Right. So when you were describing when we chatted earlier about being in grade 2 and going to a ballet practice and stopping to look at the art, is this the path you always imagined for yourself?
I didn't really do a lot of path imagining, but where I kept falling into were creative pursuits. Like I couldn't go very far without falling into some kind of creative pursuit. And so those early experiences, I went to art classes at the Edmonton Art Gallery because at that time in Edmonton, and we're talking way back, like way back in times that nobody knows about, they would take 2 kids out of every school in the city and say, we will offer you art classes at the Edmonton Art Gallery. And so I got used to going there after my ballet lesson. And then I always stopped and looked at the art in the bay that was right next door to my ballet studio. I had to go up there to visit the velvet paintings that I was just gobsmacked by. I wanted to touch them. They were so beautiful and
I have this
kind
good
of sensuous.
velvet background here. I could.
I would love to touch your black velvet background. We could do a little. We could do a little mitigation on some of those surfaces. Yeah, that could be fun. And then we moved a lot as a child, and so wherever we moved, I would always end up. I don't know exactly how, but being involved with art at some level. And wherever I traveled as a young adult or beyond, I was always art looking, always.
Do you think these creative pursuits, do you think are they different in a small community compared to a large community?
Well, it's interesting. A friend and I'm helping a friend with a proposal for an exhibition that she would have with her mother. This is Ev Kleiss.
Okay, yeah.
And so we were going through her mom's history. Now, her mom, born in El Paso, Texas, came up to Canada at 3 years old into BC, came across, I think, on the train with, 2 ponies and 3 cows or something like that, to somewhere southern Saskatchewan. And she Margaret, always drew and did visual creative pursuits. But somebody dropped by their house, some traveler came by, and he told her about a correspondence course that came out of somewhere in Michigan. And so her parents wrote away for it. She did it for 10 years. And it was excruciatingly rigorous in a very tight kind of visual way. And then after she got married, her husband, nice Nick, actually suggested she go to the Banff School of Fine Arts in the summer, and he bought her a car. And all the other people in the community say, well, you can't do that. Who's going to make Nick's dinner? but she and her husband, she must have really picked well, were in a position where Prairie Farm girl ended up getting a really good art education, and she was a fabulous painter.
Wow.
Yeah. And so small places, in many ways, I would think that almost writes you off until much later in life when you can get a hold of some kind of, even rudimentary training. You can do a lot of training through looking, but you need some kind of rudimentary training in, kind of art fundamentals. But she got that on a farm in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. This would probably have been in the 20s.
Wow. And so would that be like maybe chance for her a little bit, or is it about opportunity, I guess, or opportunities?
Opportunities, and like her parents must have been, because I'm sure there was a cost associated with it, and they would have to have written the original. A lot of parents, I don't think, would have seen that as something that we do. No, you've got a horse, go ride your horse. Yeah. Go feed the chickens. And so somebody recognized something about something. And so this is another, chaos opportunity that the outcomes shouldn't necessarily have been what they were, but order emerged out of it that supported her creative growth.
Right. Well, and impacted her
daughter's
life and Grant, because he
grandchildren too.
He was a photographer, I can remember, and how about you? Was there someone like that gave you that opportunity?
My parents they were very supportive of the arts. My grandfather was came over from Scotland right at the end of the First World War. He'd been in the war, and somehow ended up in Los Angeles doing special effects. Like he blew the trains up on the little tiny bridges for early films, and built the gargoyle that's head got cut off, and somehow like he kind of again like how would you expect a boy from the shipbuilding yards in Glasgow to end up in Los Angeles doing all these things, and he was there until his wife called the end of it because he worked 24 hours a day. And by then they had a young child, and she said no. And so they drove up a track to Vancouver where he continued these pursuits. He did the whole ceiling in the Orpheum Theatre in Vancouver, and like whatever needed done, he would figure out a way to do it. And so he had casting things and lathes and this and that all over his studio. And so the notion that if you want to do or make something, there's always a way of doing it. So that was there. And my parents were just always supportive. And so we always had opportunities for, music and dance and theater and visual art. We always had those opportunities. There was never a push to do something serious. All right, now when are you going to do something serious? And that was good. Like I had a serious brother who's a PhD mechanical engineer and a sister who's pretty serious too, but ended up in theater design.
But you've seriously pursued
Oh yeah.
art.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've seriously pursued art since I left here at 15. We were here in Medicine Hat from grade 6, where I met Ev Coulees.
Okay.
She was in her first year of teaching or something, and she was our grade 6 teacher who made every creative opportunity available.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we wanted to write a play, okay. If we wanted to design sets, okay. Everything was okay. And so, I had that early experience with chaos here, and I was kind of surprised when I went into grade 7 when it wasn't the same. It was going to be the way school was now. And so I left here at 15, and when I moved to Montreal, got involved with a weaving studio, and that was really interesting. And so I worked there for years, and then I went to Museum of Fine Arts School and Sir George Williams University and took art, and went to exhibitions all the time, went to exhibition openings all the time, read about art all the time, talked to artists all the time. And so I was kind of immersed in that until I had an opportunity to go to Edinburgh and work with internationally known tapestry weaver. And again, art, back and forth from London to Edinburgh, meeting artists, talking to artists, and, developing new creative projects. So, yeah, it was just a lot of art.
And how did you end up back in Medicine Hat?
Okay, now that's a good story. So when I lived here between grade 6 and grade 9, I met Calvin. And then we always kept in touch. And then when biological clock went off, late 20s, I thought, well, Calvin would be like, he'd be a good one. And so ended up back in Medicine Hat and having a family here and really getting involved right from the beginning, getting really involved in the community here, in the arts, but also in just in a lot of community ventures. Again, what I was talking about with kind of outsiders, people that don't have a place in a community. And so 2 more recent projects that are definitely creative in nature, but are not sort of art pursuits. Well, in some ways they are. So as well as teaching at the college and having the studio, I'm executive director of an organization called Learn, and we're an adult foundational learning organization. So we're always looking for people who could use some kind of, I'm not going to say formal, I'm going to say slightly formalized education, who don't have opportunities to do this. And so one population that we kept running into is persons with dementia. We kind of warehouse them. I don't like to use that word because there's some very kind people that work in all the facilities. Yeah. But they're, the more I read about dementia, because my father had early onset dementia, the more I learned that, memory goes and procedural things go, but imagination doesn't. Imagination is still there. Kind of, it's there and unused. And so we at Learn started to think about, okay, what could we do with imagination? And we thought, we could, write stories and stuff and write stories with seniors. And then we thought, well, where would we get enough volunteers that we could do this? And somehow we thought, well, what about high school students? And we didn't want self-selected students.
Yeah.
We wanted just a whole class of students. And so we've had drama students, English students, leadership students, math students, a math class it was all boys. It doesn't matter which, we just have to find a teacher who's willing to say, yeah, I can let my kids come to the long-term care home twice a week.
Yeah.
They wrote stories together. We're now publishing our 5th book. And both the seniors and the high school students, even the ones who are walking in at first going, okay, I don't know what we're doing here. I don't think I like it here. I don't like the way it smells here. Come out of it wanting to visit after the program is over, bringing stuff over to their senior, little gifts that they know their senior lives. And it's turned out to be, every time we think it's going to be, well, it'll never work with this group.
Right.
An all-boy math class of kids that don't want to go to school. It ended up being absolutely transformational for everybody involved.
It's kind of, what was that? There was a program where we'd bring babies into classrooms too, right?
Exactly.
And I think it's empathy, right?
It's empathy. You somehow trigger that little piece of empathy that's there.
Yeah.
It's there in everybody all the time. But just finding the little triggers for it that make even the most hardened 15-year-old
Right.
suddenly collapse into snookiness.
Snookiness.
I was just going to run on it.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So a project that is just starting to work now, again through Learn, is, again, looking around the community, who needs something. And it's pretty obviously that we have a street folk situation of people who have a whole bunch of different needs. And so Learn was trying to figure out some way to do that. And I think we're going to be putting together kind of a lunch and story program. We start to collect the stories from our street folk, and then probably in a book form, or maybe in podcast form. I'm just thinking. Make this available to the public, because I think I hear such strange prejudices from people in the community. Like, things will be said like, well, they're choosing that lifestyle.
Right.
And I think, geez, I was down there staying late one night when it was snowing, and this didn't look like a choice at all for anybody. So just trying to disabuse the community of some prejudices and helping to start to think, okay, well, these are people that need some helps, but what could we do to make some of these things possible? And a lot of it is not necessarily money.
Right. Do you think, is that a theme that you've revisited over your career, the notion of outsiders? Or
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise, why do I keep running into opportunities to have these wonderful experiences with outsiders? Yeah, I think it must be some kind of a theme.
Yeah, and why do you think you're drawn to that?
Oh God, I don't know. I'm not sure, but even in my own art practice and in studying art history, that was a theme that was threaded through that. I was looking for I always ended up looking at marginalized humans or marginalized animals or marginalized places on the planet. I don't know. You're asking me a very hard question. Why does my line of sight keep going in that direction? I'm not sure.
It's interesting. Wes King Hunter, who we both know, Wes, I remember him clearly articulating that because he taught social studies at Hat High when he was first a teacher, and then he didn't ever want to teach -1, and he didn't even really want to teach -2. He wanted to teach the kids that found it the hardest.
Yeah. And it was just like, this is so boring.
And just love working with the outsider or the underdog, because he just got way more out of it.
I have to say, when you find a group that is going, I don't need to know anything about this, suddenly the lights start to percolate on. It is very exciting. So, yeah, I'm kind of with Wes on that. Like, I would rather teach or work with people who were not completely on side and then watch them get on side with an idea. Yeah. I think that is pretty interesting.
Yeah. How has being an educator impacted your own creativity and art?
Oh, all the time. Because of the way that I teach, I tell almost nothing. I don't tell anything. All I do is ask questions. I'm penetrating questions all the time, looking at stuff, asking questions. And so the more I ask questions, and like the students at the college, most of whom are going into education right now, that's the group that I'm mostly working with. They'll say, well, okay, just can you give us an example? I'll say, no, I really cannot give you an example because we have to invent, we have to find, we have to inquire into finding an example. I can't give you an example because it would just be my example. And what good is that to you? So there's often resistance at first. Well, our other professors, they give us examples, and then we work toward those. And I said, well, sorry about that.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, before midterm, usually some kind of light goes on because they've had some successes in creating things and some invention or asking a particularly excellent question that I'll say, okay, I'm writing that down because that's not a question I've ever asked before.
Yeah.
And so they become part of this process of inquiry that leads to new discoveries. And that's always, always, always exciting for me. And when we send education students to field experiences in the schools, I follow them in. And they have a class that they'll work with for maybe five days over 5 weeks or something. And when I watch them approaching the kids in the same way, the kindergarten to the grade 5s or whatever they're working with, and watching the education students see the children's lights go on, that is a particularly wonderful thing. Yeah.
Can you think of a recent moment where it was like, yes, this is why I do this?
So this term has had a lot of challenges with college classes that are going to be working in schools because of the teacher strike.
Right, yeah.
And so instead of having 5 opportunities in a school, they had 2, which is very short.
Yeah.
And so we had the last go around just this week, and just with even 2 times being in a classroom with a group of little kids, I saw lights going on with the education students. And some of them were saying, this is the way I want to always teach. I want to always teach with having the students fully on board and part of this learning process, because we talk a lot about co-construction of meaning. If you're not constructing it with people, if you're constructing it for them, it's just, in my lifetime, I just found that a waste of time.
Yeah.
But if you're constructing meaning with people, then everybody's just so excited about what they're learning and what they're doing. And so that kind of co-construction aspect is, it's pretty wonderful.
Well, it's kind of everything.
It's everything.
Right?
It's everything.
Yeah, and it's maybe that's kind of where AI starts to go sideways, right? Where I'm not really co-constructing, although it's really helpful.
It's shockingly, terrifyingly helpful in some ways. I wrote a recent paper that was published in an AI journal, as a matter of fact, about trying to take apart human creativity and AI creativity. And the only way, like, I would hate to see humans getting used to diminishing their own creative capacity.
Yeah.
Because they can ask AI to do it, because AI won't know, like, all the little bits of something that are running through you. Somebody says, I don't know, somebody says Christmas to you. You could ask AI about Christmas. But the things that are going to pop into my head are going to be Christmas at my grandparents' house. And there was always a certain smell when you came in the door. And it was mostly oranges. And I think it was like boxes of mandarin oranges that maybe should have been in the fridge that weren't. And AI would never know that.
Yeah.
And so that creative mix of odd little things that are percolating into your brain, they won't know that. They may be able to make up things, but they won't have that cluster of odd chaos that's
Right.
just swimming around in everybody's brain differently all the time.
Yeah.
Differently every single time.
That there are a whole bunch of different versions of reality out there. I read something recently where like we each have this own idea of who we are.
Sort of.
But you have an idea of who I am. And
I do, sort of, yeah.
Lisa has an idea.
And they're not the same idea.
No. And they're not the same as mine.
No.
Right?
No.
And the 50 people I saw last night at a banquet, they all have their own idea of me. And so there are all these versions of me out there.
Versions of you that might have these little overlaps.
Yeah.
You know, they have certain overlaps, but they're certainly not a big picture.
Yeah.
And yet we walk around thinking like, well, how can we walk around even thinking that we know whole populations and what they're going to do and what they're not going to do, and making decisions for people that are sort of, anyway, I don't want to get going on that one. I could really go far on that one. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And so just keeping that open, keeping it open all the time, keeping all the doors open in how we know the world and how we know each other and, you know, all of that. Because, yeah, you're many Corries.
I know. It's actually a bit scary when you think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what an artist would do with that. Like
The many Corries.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be an interesting project. Let's do the many Corries. Oh, you're giving me ideas.
Yeah.
The many Corries. Actually, you are giving me an idea of the many. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to work on that one. That'd be good.
It fits in with the shadow thing. Maybe we'll talk about that later. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. I'm gonna just shift a little bit.
Okay.
You served the community for a long time as a trustee.
Yes, 3,200 years.
And so my wondering is, when you engage in a governance model, how does that impact your view of a community?
Okay, now the governance thing, it's kind of a hard stretch for me sometimes. I have to cough again.
Okay.
Because often governance organizations have a single voice, like you speak with one voice.
Right.
And even with that, I found myself often having kind of an outsider voice. And so I would have to figure out how to get the outsider voice fed into. So in the governance mode, trying to understand what any governing body that is over you is expecting from you, and then trying to understand what you can do internally and what you can do internally as a group, and being able to work with others in such a way that you can feed alternative voices, because I found like I was often the outlier voice. And so
A theme revisited.
We're still on that theme. Oh, dear. To feed it into a governance body. And sometimes I was successful and sometimes I was not. But you have to kind of live with that, because if you're going to put yourself in that position, then you have to play with those rules. And I could do it, but it wasn't always comfortable for me. So I hope I had some impact in moving things a little off mainstream, or suggesting other ways that we could accomplish the same goals, but do it in slightly different ways. But it's hard to know what kind of success you've had with that.
Did being on an elected board impact your view of the community, or?
Oh, now that's an interesting question. Yeah. It probably just made me more curious in certain areas. Like I wanted to talk to parents in the grocery store all the time.
Give you like a different lens to, or a different way to approach people, or.
Yeah. And as long as people didn't approach me as something, something kind of special or something, because I just like to have authentic conversations with people in Safeway. Safeway was my best place for gathering information, or, just going for walks and running into people. So interacting with the community in a kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, just kind of an intercept mode I found was more effective for me than going to another structure, like let's say a parent council, that is kind of a mirror structure of the school board, but they looked at themselves as one step below or something.
Right.
I found that less effective than just talking to people.
Yeah.
Just going around and running into people.
Mm-hmm.
Because people, just as, the many Corries, there are many, many, many ideas of education based on people's own experiences. And then they're thinking about their children, and they're wanting their children to have the best possible experience so they can be the best possible human. And, but, teachers, honestly, the jobs that they do with 30 children at a time. I was just up at Ken Sauer, and there were 30 children in those classes, trying to work with all those personalities and all those different needs and all those different ways of learning, and still trying to do something with a curriculum that is handed down from above, but that you can change, modify, adapt, and sneaky ways to make it work for most of the time. I think it's the hardest job in the world.
Yeah, it's hasn't gotten easier.
No, in fact, I
people.
think it's gotten harder.
Is there, as you reflect on the time of being a trustee, is there something that you'd say, "Oh, I'm super proud of what we did there," or what I did there, or?
I'm early on. I felt very good about the school board giving CAPE its first charter, because then we sort of brought it into the public fold. And I thought it could stay there and just become an alternative program. But at a slightly later stage, the board threw it off the bus. And so I thought that was an opportunity to say, okay, if this is, because the charter school, in the Education Act, it says charter schools can do things differently, then they have to report on them. There has been no holding the line on that, even though it's right in the School Act. But if we'd had them in on, they're supposed to share their research with others.
Right.
And so what happened a little later was one of our schools becoming a magnet school, wanting to try things, doing things differently.
Right.
And I think I was in with that from the beginning, with that organizing group of people, and saying, okay, I'm really going to push this with the board, because I think it's a really important thing to do. So I think I'm glad that I was able to participating in having that happen. What else?
That's like 30 years, since River Heights
Absolutely.
transition there.
Yeah, that was way back.
Yeah.
What else? We've had several different governments, and learning how to work with a provincial government, with all those different governments, with provincial governments that have very different ideas of their role in local education models. That's been a challenge, but also it's been a really excellent learning experience. Like if you just came in and stayed through one government and how it operated, you think this is how provincial governments operate. But working through, I think I've had 4, I might have had 5. I'm on my 5th. I was on my 5th.
Yeah.
You realize that the provincial governments really have a lot of latitude to be as involved or allowing local boards to be as free as possible. And we're in a position right now where we have extreme overreach from the provincial government.
So that lens of the community through the eyes of a trustee, is that a different hat that you've worn, and it stays separate from Deborah, the artist instructor, or how has that spilled over and impacted your creativity?
It's all one great big mess up there. Like, all the things live in that big bundle of chaos, and they're all knocking into each other here and there, all over the place. And the ways that things that I would learn on the school board that would affect what I'm doing with students at the college, that would affect my own studio practices, they're all kind of interlocked. A lot of what I look at, well, we talked about outsiders, but I also look at systems that are hierarchical. And most of my current work, well, I call it current, people call it a lifetime, but has to do with something to do with hierarchical systems that are imposed on others and I keep trying to provide opportunities for things to break free. And so several projects have been about that breaking free. And then my most recent project, Sea Jellies Next Generation, sea jellies are the oldest still living species on Earth. They just keep changing, modifying, adapting. Doesn't matter what the circumstances are. And they operate pretty well completely outside any kind of hierarchy because they don't even have a central nervous system. They operate with incoming information through everywhere on the organism. And I think, oh, how nimble could that be? And I think that's why they can change, modify, adapt. We think our brain is running the show, and we wait for our brain to solve the problems. And it's only working in one kind of way. We're not taking in information in a larger kind of way. And so I can't tell you exactly what that looks like. That would look like biologically or neurologically, but I think we have to be very careful of thinking that human brains are at the top of the pinnacle of organizing and learning stuff. We have to start to spread out, look what other species are doing, and look how we can learn differently in a more holistic kind of way rather than just, just a big brain idea.
When we went to the studio, you shared with me the princesses on the Roombas, and that notion of hierarchy and breaking out. You have to tell that story.
Okay, I had this exhibition. Now, what we called that one? It wasn't Shadow Princesses. It was the next one. Anyway, there are these kind of wire-formed little princesses made out of rocks and bones and twigs down from the river, riding around on Roombas, and they're in an atmosphere of rain and wind and fire. And then we built a constellation for them. Then in the gallery, because we're humans, we had to set up the boundaries. And so we thought we had an impenetrable laser guardrails.
Like a laser fence.
A laser fence. We had like an impenetrable laser fence around the princesses. And so then the docents at the gallery started to notice that one princess somehow would find her way out, and she would lead the other ones out. And then they would be found in the foyer, or they would be found trying to escape one of the desks, entry desks on the way in, because they'd find their way out. Yeah. And I thought, oh, this is so great, because we've tried to contain and constrain the princesses, and they made it out. A lot of my princess work started with thinking about that poor little Infanta Margarita in the Velázquez painting. And she's the one that's in that dress with the extreme farthingale, that goes straight out from the sides. Yeah. And she's there with her dog and some of her ladies in waiting and so on. And she was married off to a Habsburg kind of cousin, uncle, something. She was Spanish. Married off to this Habsburg uncle, cousin, whatever he was, at the age of 14. And I think she only lived till 15 or 16, probably died in childbirth, as people do. So, and then I look at the notion of princess, how it's wended its way through the centuries, and so that we like to call our little girls, when they're looking beautiful, little princesses, and I think, oh, please don't. You don't want them to be princesses. You want them to be vital, independent escapees from the strictures of princesshood.
We picture it as elevated when it's really a trap.
It's a trap.
Yeah.
Princess is a trap. And it's sort of sad for me to see social media trapping young women again in giving them very specific ways they're supposed to look and what they're supposed to do, and it's another princess trap, and I just think, will we ever get beyond this?
How about in the local art scene? Where do you see energy and possibilities in Medicine Hat?
Well, I would say right now, I don't have a lot to do with the Medicine Hat Art Club anymore. I used to teach classes for them years ago, and that was very fun. But I'm in the same building as they meet, and they're very active. Like they're very active. There are people in and out of art club and in out of the Potters Association all the time. So I see that as being very vital. There's a place where people can go. Like if you remove that hub, so that there wasn't like a sort of a common studio where people could go, it would be really letting down artists in our community.
Yeah.
I see Medelta as a pretty amazing place because they have they have the historical museum, they have a beautiful gallery, they have a section that is open for all sorts of activities, and then they have school and education programs that run there too. Then they have their artist in residence program, and so ceramic artists from all over the world come there and spend a year there, and then contribute to the community in a variety of ways as well. The Esplanade is a place to go. It's it's good. What I wish there was more of, and I don't know what it would look like, but again, some kind of a multidisciplinary hub spot where people could go and do things, make things, talk to people, experiment with stuff. Kind of a big sort of experimental studio. I know some places have them and they have equipment. They might have the equipment that you have here because I think a lot of kids would be so interested in doing things with this, and a lot of adults as well. So communities could create creative hotspots so that people could go and experiment with things. And not just experiment with visual things, but experiment with ideas and experiment with conversations. And it might need some kind of structure, but I think the structure could be intentionally quite loose so people can start to shape it in ways that are going to suit their, their creative expansions.
Yeah. I joked before we started about my last guest and anticipating the next question.
Oh, dear.
I was going to say, like, at the risk of making this a 4 or 5 hour podcast, what are some other ideas you might have about nurturing this in our community? I went to a TEDx talk. It was several years ago, and the guy that was doing the talk had been part of he's a Canadian researcher, but he had been part of this group in California, and I can't remember the name of the university, but it was intentionally structured. It was basically master's level kind of work.
Was it Stanford?
No, it wasn't. It was a name I wasn't familiar with. But you would be put into a group of 4 people, into a group with a problem to solve. But one person was an architect, one person was a chemical engineer, one person was a writer, and so all 4 people, you were intentionally put into these cross groups, right, of cohorts, and they were trying to solve breast cancer. That was their group. And it was just I thought that was a fascinating idea. And so when you were talking about this idea of some kind of hub where people could, I might have way different ideas or approaches to things, but there could be synergy there, right?
Well, this is so good that you brought them up because it sounds very much like the work that's come out of the Kelly brothers, the design thinking. And
that's Stanford.
Yeah,
right?
that's Stanford, yeah. It sounds like a similar process. And I think I've even seen a TED Talk that was about these multidisciplinary groups working on things. And so then you're almost becoming a sea jelly, you're taking things in from all the different parts. Yeah. Now, the PhD that I just finished, it's all about the 7 C's for creativity and making a great big mess by making a great big chaos, by pulling things together from all over the place and never feeding anything out until you get to a point where, okay, I think we're getting somewhere. So that multidisciplinary approach, multi-age approach, I think is really important too. if you had, elderly with teenagers, with,
Yeah.
5-year-olds. Maybe they couldn't do it for that long, but
Right.
5-year-olds will have some very sharp ideas
Yeah.
about how to do things. But multi-age groups, multi-disciplines, and probably from different places in the world,
Mm-hmm.
we could actually probably make some pretty extraordinary progress
Mm-hmm.
on all sorts of things. And also, really working with that circular model that comes out of Indigenous ways of knowing,
Mm-hmm.
rather than any kind of a hierarchical model. And so that's what design thinking does as well. It's got to be circular.
I remember sitting with Deb Lloyd, and we had the pyramid of interventions, and
She
she
said,
was like, "You guys and your
and you
triangles."
or, towers. No, that's exactly it. And, even, pyramid of intervention, and also, the Krathvold pyramid. You know what I'm talking about.
Like Maslow's
Yeah.
hierarchy.
No,
Oh,
the other one. There's another pyramid. We were just looking at
Yeah.
it the other day. Anyway, they finally changed it and put creativity at the top
Yeah.
of the pinnacle, but it's still a hierarchical
Right.
structure. Like, this is where you want to go.
Yeah.
But if it was circular, you could go back over here to analyze and back over here to collect some more information. You've got to be able to, zip all over the universe and
Yeah.
pick stuff up.
multiple points of entry and
Multiple points of entry,
yeah,
multiple points of exit.
yeah,
A little place for a rest every now and then.
yeah. So the Sea Jelly show,
Yeah.
when does that open?
It technically opens December 16th.
Okay.
Its opening reception is January 16th, I believe, so 16 is a memorable date. And the school programs probably won't start until kind of March-ish.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe even late February going into April. It's up until the end of April, I believe. So it's up for, 4 months, and so there should be lots of opportunities to do different things with it. And I think different things are going to arise in how we can use it from having people involved with
Right.
it,
Because it's more interactive and
It's entirely interactive.
Yeah.
You don't go in and look at it. You have to go in and get covered with sea jellies.
But what if I'm afraid of sea jellies?
I don't know. You'll get over it. You realize they don't hurt. Yeah. Get immersed in sea jellies, and particularly you get immersed in sea jellies and you watch your shadow as well as the shadows that
Okay.
are in there.
Yeah.
So it's working a lot with the shadow of a human, which can
Yeah.
have all sorts of metaphorical meanings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think, is there a project or a phase that you had that you felt like was the closest to who you are?
Oh, I've never asked myself that question once. Well, I think I'm an evolving entity, and so. Oh. No, I can't
Yeah.
say so. No, I'm an evolving entity, and so wherever I am at any different stage,
That's who you are.
that's kind of who I am. Yeah, I think that's who I am. So.
Do you think that there is anything that you wouldn't have come up with if you hadn't lived in Medicine Hat?
Oh, I think there are millions of things I wouldn't have come
Yeah.
up with if I hadn't lived here.
Yeah.
Because I'm very connected to another project that I'm working on too is Coulees Speak. And so the idea is that there would be projections onto the cliffs in the Coulees of the Great Cretaceous Seaway that went through there
wow.
at some point, and all the...
How are you going to do that?
Oh, we're thinking about it. We're thinking about it. I've got a very good group of people that are working on this right now, and sort of early Indigenous people that were in the Coulees doing different things. And so
Yeah.
we would try to let the Coulees start to speak their history in places that people could actually just walk through. And
Yeah.
as soon as it was dark enough, then the projections would come on, and it would be the Coulees would speak to you. Why am I talking about this?
What
was the question?
You couldn't have come up with this idea unless you had lived in Medicine Hat.
Unless I had lived in Medicine Hat,
Yeah.
and I'm very interested in fossils, and I'm very interested in things that are left over after things that have died or past their time. Very interested in those things. And in Medicine Hat, it seems like you can be very, very close to all of that. I love cities. I love cities particularly because they have public transportation and you don't have to depend on a car. But I love Medicine Hat because you're close to everything.
Yeah.
Like I can go and ponder the Great Cretaceous Seaway, 6 minutes from my home. I can, I can walk down to the river and think of all the changes the river has gone through over time. I can pick up little, who's that little guy I had at the studio? Little crayfish.
Oh yeah.
From the edge of
from
the edge of the water
he's
with a grandchild. Those little crayfish have been around for a while. So I'm very close to, and you can't really do that in the same way in a city.
Yeah.
You can't be in a large city. You can't be close to everything. And so the fact that Medicine Hat is, you can be so close to everything. And also you can be so close to all sorts of different groups of people because it's a small city.
Yeah.
In a large city, you might have a couple of different cohorts that you do things with. But no, in a small city, you can have relationships with people doing all manner of things.
I want to see this project come to life.
The Coulees
me
me too. I so want to see it. Yeah. Yeah, we've got a couple of grants that we'll rewrite, and because it won't be that expensive, but we need really kind of high-powered projectors. And but we've already got permission from the city to mount them and stuff. And so,
Cool.
Yeah. Wouldn't that? I mean, I can just see it. I'm looking at it right now. Looks so good.
You got any special cliffs in mind?
Well, the sea jellies got to make their way into it at some point because they would have been there in the Great Cretaceous Seaway. But also, like, it'd be nice to have some veils of the fossils that are left in the cliffs now, and then overlaid with the movement of the water in the Great Cretaceous Seaway. Maybe we'd have some, some plesiosaurs running through it and things. I don't know a lot of plesiosaurs personally, but yeah. So it had just sort of come alive. Like we're living in a living, changing, growing, and adapting planet in a certain place on the earth. And I think we kind of forget it. We're so much right now. And so, I don't know, we're just kind of constricted by the now of things instead of being part of something much larger and longer stuff. More chaos. More chaos.
What does it mean to you to have lived a creative life?
Well, I may be kind of limited, but I can't think of another one. I can't. Oh my gosh, if I was like constricted into something else, I don't know. I don't know how I would function. Because I'm distracted by just about everything. And yeah, no, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's kind of fundamentally who I am, and so I just have to go with it, go with the flow. Yeah. So, I mean, I write, I read, I make art, I work with people. I try to work with all different kinds of community work, but not because I think this is my goal to do this.
Right.
It will be more of an encounter.
Yeah.
And you'll think, oh, okay. There might be something that we can work on here.
We talked lots about your art, but you've done a lot of writing too, right?
Yeah, I've got.
And continued to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When things occur to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. When things come up that I think, oh, okay, nobody's writing about this right now, and then I'll go and write about it. Like the AI stuff I was talking about. Really trying to understand human creativity and how it is separate and distinct from something that could be generated another way. And I could be wrong because I don't know all the ways of generating stuff, but I think there is something that happens in our human craziness that individually the many Corries are pulling in stuff from all over the place all the time.
Yeah, it seems now like you can tell if it's fake, and I don't know what that is.
It's a kind of veil that's over the writing.
Yeah.
Like I've kind of engaged my students, to send me something that is AI generated for one of their assignments, and then do the one that they've written themselves. And then we look at the two of them and we think, geez, there's something, you're kind of left out of this one. You're not present. And I always try to encourage students, if they have to write or make art or do anything, to always bring themselves to the work. Don't don't try to be. And this writing in the third person all the time, I think, is a terrible mistake. Academic writing in the third person is a mistake because there's a human writing it.
Yeah.
So be a human. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've covered the list that I wanted to go. Did you want to talk about anything else?
No, I think you've talked about so many things that I didn't really, that I haven't really thought about.
Oh.
And so, yeah. Yeah, and then, I guess the only thing I would add to it is having children and having grandchildren.
Yeah.
Just keep expanding that notion of what it is to be human. Without my children and grandchildren constantly teaching me, my life would be much thinner.
Yeah. Well, if you visit your website, it's deborahforbes.com. You have that preview video of the show with your grandkids.
Yes.
In it, right? And they're part of the...
They're walking into it, and their shadows are the steel figures. Yeah, not them. I never steal a child. But I'm not above stealing their shadow. They were a very, very vital part of that exhibition. And my daughter Zoe also came especially to help me with all sorts of the staging effects.
It just occurred to me, this staging of the effects and tracing this line all the way back to your grandfather who was staging effects in Los Angeles.
I never even thought about that.
That would be their great
gosh.
grandpa.
I never even thought about that. Yeah, exactly. He was blowing up the trains, and I just wanted to see the Coulees. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He would actually have really kind of enjoyed being alive now because he would have worked with all this stuff, and there was no tool that he couldn't find a way of working with.
That's it.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Do your grandkids know that story about him in Los Angeles?
I have to think about that. I think the oldest one does. Do the younger ones? No, but I'm going to tell a bunch of younger ones at Christmas and tell another bunch of younger ones in February when I see them. Yeah. We've only got one in town, and so I've got to kind of reach out to the other ones. But it's pretty fun, and they're all so different as humans are. Yeah, so they've been a huge part of my development. I wouldn't have bothered to develop without them, I don't think.
Well, this was fun. I've learned. I've sat beside you in tons of meetings.
We sit right beside each other.
There's lots of those pieces I didn't know. So.
Yeah. Well, they were good questions, and they really made me think about a lot of things that I don't really think about that much because I'm too busy bumping into things.
Motivation Local is produced by Table 4 Productions with the generous support of TELUS Storyhive. You can find our episodes on Optic TV, at our website, motivationlocal.com, on our YouTube channel, or wherever you get your podcasts. Our producer is Turner Sotomayor. Our theme music was composed by Medicine musical artist Snakes and the Riot. As always, thanks for watching or listening to our podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard here, don't hesitate to subscribe to our channel or to leave us some feedback.